So in this video, going to go over using historical examples to guide entries and exits. So historical examples from both the technical and fundamental perspective. I've actually gone over this a lot in past videos. So I'll just go over a few examples today, ones that worked and ones that didn't work. Starting with ATNF. Now with this one, you can't necessarily use an example from this ticker from its own history because we're sort of in a brand new situation when they pivoted to this Ethereum treasury stuff. But we can use other tickers. The ones that were similar to me were BMNR and SBET, and that they're both Ethereum treasury plays, and they both kind of had this big move here. After taking a look, I determined that it was more similar to SBET, both from a technical and fundamental perspective. So just looking at the charts here. So here we have this like consolidation, and then we have this sort of like a next leg up, day one and then day two. And then on SBT back here, it didn't have the multi-day consolidation, but it did have the move up, and then this being kind of the second leg. So I was comparing it to this area right here. And then BMNR, this one was earlier in the run. So this was actually on the first move, right? On a day two move that I was looking at was right here. So no prior consolidation, so earlier in the move. And then this situation wasn't necessarily similar to me because it was a gap. It was a gap down here. And then also from a fundamental perspective, SBET was closer in the cycle in terms of filing their S3 ASR for the private placement shares. So they had, like with SBT, they got to WIC-C status, which I explained in, if you look at another YouTube video I did on BMNR, I kind of go over that. Basically, they were in a situation where they're closer to filing the registration for the private placement, which actually came about a week or more after the run up, and then it happened right here with this gap down. But ultimately, I determined that I thought that SBT was the closer example. So we look here, intraday, this is BMNR, put up a little bit more of a fight and didn't even fade until later in the afternoon. And then SBET had a push, a little bit of a fight here, but ended up fading. So ATNF turned out pretty similarly. If we actually just pull up the chart side by side, they look pretty similar, both on the day one move and on the day two move. So you can see it developed pretty similarly. So I traded this one pretty well. I was patient and waited for it to do its thing in the morning, and just waited for it to get weaker and just kind of get it on the backside. And then moving on, another example was CGTX. So this situation, from a technical perspective, let's just go back and look at some of these past gaps, which is this one and this one. It's really only had two gaps. It's kind of similar to this one, I suppose, in that it was sort of like the second leg, whereas this one was also kind of a day two. So let's go ahead and look at CGTX here. So that was this day, actually. They completed end of phase two meeting with FDA. And it was interesting because they also say, let's see, we're on CGTX here under key dates and timelines, that they were on this from that announcement. They're actually expecting the end of phase two meeting minutes from that prior press release. So this was actually expected news. But yeah, as you can see how it turned out, didn't put up much of a fight, faded pretty easily. And then this one in December, same kind of thing, didn't really put up much of a fight. And we can see here, it pretty much did the same thing, not really much of a fight, just sort of faded off. And then the ATM probably helped out as well. Now moving on to one that didn't work out so well is this BSLK. And yeah, it's made a pretty wild move. So with this one actually had even better of a fade history than the other ones. So right here. So see here, it's pretty decent favor. Never really ran on news. Always just a pump. And we can see even scrolling through as I'll go through these examples, it never really ran on news, although the difference this time it was earnings. Not that I would have expected it to do this just because, it ran on news this time. I wouldn't, it's hindsight thinking that way. But as you can see here, you just like CGTX, it's not really putting up a fight, just fades. This one sort of faded pre-market. I don't even think this one actually was a pretty big gap. This one too here, chart kind of truncated there, but faded off. No real volume. Didn't put up much of a fight. And then this one as well. So you basically have 4 scenarios where didn't really do anything, just faded off. So there's perfectly good reason to expect it to just do the same thing. There's not really any reason to not expect that. I mean, they did release early earnings, but it was nothing special. But obviously did not turn out that way. But the good thing about when you do have a scenario where the stock appears to be doing the same thing over and over again is that actually makes it easier to determine when it's behaving out of the ordinary, right? Because in this case, just the simple fact of the reclaim is it's already acting out of character. Let me actually rid these arrows so you can see. So it's already acting out of character when it makes this big volume move and it's holding over VWAP. This is an anomaly, and I don't trade those. I like trading stocks that sort of have like repeated behavior. But yeah, I mean, that's it. It's sort of like the way I approach these stocks where I'm looking at the history from a technical and fundamental perspective is I'm looking for it to basically do the same thing and not put up a fight. And then if it does something to the contrary, then I'm generally no longer interested in it. But that's it.